Do you know what's the best way to learn a language? Undoubtedly, it's living in that country. But what if you cannot go to the country right away? Is there any other way to acquire a language enough, even at home? If you're looking for an answer to this question, you've come to the right place. Because I'm the one who has been learning a new language without going abroad myself. I'm a 100% native Korean and an active English learner. None of my entire family members has ever been to even a single country or city using English. I don't even have a passport for real. So in this video, I'm gonna share specific ways I actually learned a new language without going abroad step by step. So I highly recommend applying what I did to your Korean learning. Alright then, let's get into today's topic. 7 months ago, when I made up my mind to learn English hard, I think I was at the upper beginner level. At that time, I had no idea how and where to begin. So I started watching Hollywood movies without subtitles at first, because movies are fun. However, watching movies without subtitles got boring so fast, since I couldn't understand what they were saying. So I turned the English subtitles on, but then my eyes couldn't keep up the speed of the subtitles. At that moment, I felt I needed to find another way to start learning English. After a week of browsing, I found this book at the bookstore. English Patterns 233. Some of you might find the title of this book kind of familiar. Anyway, this book helped me so much, especially in my early stage of learning English, because this book contains essential and frequent English sentence structures which can create thousands of complex sentences by just changing words. See this. There are "it's better for me to pattern" and "no one would pattern." Things like that. Thanks to this book, it's become way easier to understand English because essential sentence patterns are the root of complex sentences, and frequent sentence patterns, by their name, show up frequently in many situations. Furthermore, it made me way more comfortable having a chat on a language exchange app and a real face-to-face conversation with native English speakers, because I could learn various grammar rules, vocabulary, and phrases while reusing patterns by changing words. So, if you're struggling to escape from beginner level, I highly recommend learning essential and frequent Korean sentence patterns. As a side note, I made an essential and frequent Korean pattern book that 930 plus people are already using and got 5 stars from over 94% of reviewers. If you don't know what it is, please check the description or the pinned comment below. Getting back to the point, after I was able to understand basic English sentences through learning English patterns, I wanted to learn English through dramas or movies. Because after learning the basics, learning a language through only textbooks and beginner level materials was getting boring for me. But it was still hard for me to watch and understand dramas. So I've tried a lot of methods to find out how I could learn English through fun content. Fortunately, I found an excellent method, and I was helped so much by that method, and I'm gonna tell you what it is. But before I tell you what the method is, don't worry if what I'm going to tell you sounds a bit complicated. I'll summarize the method that worked for me step by step in the later part. So it's perfectly okay to listen to my story lightly, okay? Here's how I learned English through dramas or movies. The first thing I did was to select a drama or a movie. I chose Seinfeld as my learning material. Seinfeld is an American television sitcom that aired from 1989 to 1998. It's kind of an outdated TV show in some sense, but I don't know, I was fascinated by Seinfeld, not knowing why. Anyway, the next thing I did was to watch one episode without subtitles. I didn't mind however much I couldn't understand. I just let words, phrases, and context flow in my brain. Little did I understand, but it was okay. Because the next thing I did was to read the script of that episode while listening to the same episode again. By reading the script while listening, I could understand what they were saying and learn accurate pronunciation and in which context certain expressions were used. As a side note, whenever vocabulary I didn't know and expressions I wanted to learn showed up, I marked down them on the script. After reading the script while listening to the episode, I searched for meanings and usage of vocabulary and expressions I marked down. After that, I made my own sample sentences using those vocabulary and expressions to acquire them, not to memorize them. This is what I actually did. I'm afraid you guys might think my handwriting is bad. Anyway, what I think I did well was not to learn every vocabulary and expression I marked down. I only played with vocabulary and expressions I wanted to learn at that moment. If I tried to learn everything I didn't know, I'd already given up learning English. Unfortunately, even though things I passed were essential words or expressions, they showed up again and again. So I ended up learning essential and frequent words and phrases without learning everything I didn't know. Getting back to the point, after learning vocabulary and expressions from the script, I watched the same episode again without subtitles. Whenever I did that, I instantly found myself improving in understanding English compared to my first time watching. This feeling of progress made me keep going forward, although learning a new language is quite tough and time-consuming. Believe it or not, I moved on to the next episode only after I'd done all the stuff I talked about. Furthermore, I listened to the episode I studied again when I couldn't afford to watch a new episode. For instance, I'll listen to the episode I studied when I was at the gym, when I was doing the dishes, or something like that. By the time I'd gone through Seinfeld Season 4 with the learning method I did, I was able to understand English content at least 60% even without subtitles. Since then, I'm now enjoying native English content without subtitles. I'm watching Arcane Season 2 currently, and I can't wait to see what's coming next. Anyway, let's summarize how I learned a new language through native content. First, watch dramas, movies, or YouTube videos without subtitles. Second, read the script while listening to the content and mark down vocabulary and expressions you don't know. Third, pick only vocabulary and expressions you want to learn at the moment and make your own sample sentences using them. Fourth, watch the content once again without subtitles. Fifth, listen to the content you've already studied when you cannot afford to watch other content. This is what I did to expand my English comprehension, and it worked so well. Fun fact, this method led me to the English dream in a few months. I'll never forget how excited I was when I woke up from my first English dream. I felt like I achieved fluency in English at that moment, but soon it turned out that I've got a long way to reach a fluent level. Because even after being capable of understanding over 60% of English content without subtitles, I still had one big problem. It is lack of opportunities to build output proficiency. I could listen, watch, and read English however much I wanted, even in Korea. But I couldn't speak and write in English in Korea as much as I take English inputs, even though I tried to meet as many native English speakers as possible. So I deeply thought about how can I maximize opportunities to make outputs in English, in Korean? And then the light bulb in my head was turned on. Why am I thinking to myself in Korean? Wait, by only changing the language I use when thinking, I think I could speak to myself a massive amount of English sentences even in a day. After I realized that, my English learning journey had a huge turnaround. To produce as much English output as possible, I'm now trying to think, self-talk, and take notes of wherever I can in English all day, except for circumstances where I have to use Korean. Interesting right now, I've been thinking to myself in English and taking notes in English. These are memos from 26th to 28th of October, and I'm surprised that I left this memo. It's really helpful to think in English. And these are from 9th to 15th of November. It's been almost a month thinking to myself and taking notes in English, and I really want to recommend you to try this. Because after doing this, it took me way less time to write my YouTube video scripts, and I started using richer vocabulary and expressions more and more. In other words, thinking to myself and taking notes in English has improved my sentence-making ability and speed. Furthermore, I'm still improving. Thanks to the 3 methods of learning a new language that I've mentioned in this video, my English has been improving really fast, so I really want you to try all the 3 methods. Oh, you don't remember what the 3 methods were? Don't worry, I'll summarize them right now. The first method, learning essential and frequent sentence patterns. I think this is one of the most effective ways for beginners to learn the basics by repetition. Don't forget you can get a highly recommended Essential and Frequent Korean Pattern book through the description or the pinned comment below. The second method, learning deeply through the content and its script. Let's go over specific steps. Step 1. Watch dramas, movies, or YouTube videos without subtitles. Step 2. Read the script while listening to the content and mark down vocabulary and expressions you don't know. Step 3. Pick only vocabulary and expressions you want to learn at the moment and make your own sample sentences using them. Step 4. Watch the content once again without subtitles. Step 5. Listen to the content you've already studied when you cannot afford to watch other content. The third method. thinking to yourself and taking notes of whatever you can in your target language. It'll be harder than you think, but please do not give up until you get used to thinking in your target language. Once you get used to doing it, you'll instantly notice your output proficiency is improving so fast. These are the 3 methods that improved my English skills significantly. Leslie, I'm still not fluent in English yet. However, I think I can say I'm kind of good at English now, because although I still have difficulty speaking naturally in English, I've never experienced my English getting in the way of having a conversation and relationships with native English speakers. By the way, I've seen many people say fluent to me, but I'm not at all. I'm nothing more than someone kind of good at English. If I look like a fluent English speaker, it's probably because of my scripts and editing. I wrote all the scripts by myself though. Anyway, the point is, I became kind of good at a new language without even going abroad. Therefore, you can be at least as good at Korean as my English if you try hard, even at your home. That's what I wanted to tell you in this video. I really hope my story has given you positive motivation. I'm still an active English learner, so I'll keep learning English very hard. And also, I'll share very useful Korean learning tips based on my own language learning experiences. So, if you don't want to miss what's coming next, please subscribe to my channel. I'll try my best to help you achieve your Korean learning goal. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a wonderful day.